Okay, alright, so got the cases resized. Like I said, I'm going to do 2 of these, basically the manual way, which is also the cheapest tools and stuff like that. After you've got the cases resized, the next thing you're going to do is clean the primer pockets. Doing it the basic way is with a hand tool, and it's a little metal wire brush. Primers are pushed out. You're basically going to take this, go in here, and it cleans the primer pocket. So you're going to do that on all your cases. Okay. If it's the first time you have ever reloaded cases, like when I was telling you about chamfering and stuff like this is a mechanical chamfer. This does the inside, this does the outside. You only ever have to do this to the cases once. These have all been done, but I'm just going to show you how it works. If you're going to do the manual one, it's basically a couple of turns. It chamfers the inside, gets rid of any burrs. This side does the outside, kind of the same thing. Like I said, you only do this once for brand new cases. After you've got that done, the next thing you're going to do is you are going to put primers in them. Primer, I like the RCBS primer tool. These are older. The one that I told you to get is the universal one that has jaws. This one actually still uses a shell holder, but they work the same way. Load up to 100 primers in here, bring them down, take the case, slide it in, insert the primer. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Alright, so now these are ready for powder. Alright, the manual way of doing powder is with a powder thrower. These are Harrells. They're very expensive. They're very precise. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for you for what you're doing. You can do the RCBS or the Redding or the Hornady. Just read some of the reviews of whichever one's on sale. It doesn't really matter as far as that goes. But they all kind of work the same. Put the case underneath the dump, handle up, handle down. I vibrate it a little bit just to make sure no grains got stuck in anywhere. So now you've got powder in here. You want to measure this out to where it throws at least 2 or 3 grains under what your charge is going to be. The charge that we're going to be doing is 75 grains. I've got this throwing somewhere around 71, 72 grains. The first time I get powder, I'm actually going to dump it into this powder trickler, just so it has some powder in there. So what we're going to do next is throw the powder. Now this is ready to go to the scales. Alright, let me show you how these mechanical scales work. As far as zeroing them, you bring this to 0, you bring your individual degrees here to 0. The powder tray has to be in it, and then you're going to look at your thing here. As you can see, the scale sets a little higher than what the 0 is. You've got your mechanical knob here. You're going to raise the scale until it hits 0. Once it hits 0, I would bounce it. Make sure it floats back to 0. Floats back to 0, so we're good to go. So now the scale is 0. Now, when you set this on your table, if there's little divots, bumps, or whatever, if you move it around, then it could change. I would try to leave it in one spot so that everything stays the same, because at this point, it's based off of the height of this being 0. Generally, when I'm moving it, I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring this to 70, and then I'm going to roll this to 70 or to 5, which is going to be 75. These numbers here are tenths, so you have 1 grain up here, and you have 1/10 of grain here. So in this case, we're just going to go all the way to 0. Tighten a little screw so it stays. So now this is ready to dump for 75 grains of powder. The powder that came out of the thrower goes in here, and then basically we're going to start trickling powder. Once this gets caught up, it's going to start dumping. I've got it set a little lower than really what it should be. But you can see now that the scale is starting to move up. We're going to go really slow and let it settle and even out. Now we're zeroed out, so now we have 75 grains of powder in there. At this point, powder funnels. I like the Midway powder funnels. They're not very expensive. You get a little funnel and you get this little box that has all these different inserts in it so that you can change the ends here for all kind of different calibers. This is probably the simplest, most easiest one. Midway USA is what brand this is. You can get expensive aluminum ones that are machined, but they are only going to be for one caliber. This one is for a 22. That's the only caliber it's good for, is a 22 caliber. That's why I like the little plastic kit, because I can do them all. But anyway, this goes over here. We are going to dump the powder in. So now this case is ready to seat the bullets. Alright, we are going to pull the resizing die off. And we are going to set the bullet seater in. Kind of the same process. You're going to bring the handle all the way up. You're going to spin this. Come down here, Stephanie, so you can see up underneath here. We're going to spin this down. Now, in this particular die, it has the collet. It's going to touch first. We're going to keep on spinning until we get the actual base of the die to touch. Once it touches, we're going to back it off about 1/8 of a turn. And then we're going to set the nut. So now there's no pressurizing or anything like this. It goes all the way down. This was already set for the bullet seating depth, so I'm going to leave it like it was from where I loaded these earlier. But basically, you've got your caliber up here. You can change the seating depth to whatever you want. Case will go in here. Take a bullet, tuck it in, bring it down. That is it. That is a reloaded bullet. Do the next one. Throw the powder. Dump it in. Trickle it in until it gets to where it's supposed to be. See the bullet. That's basically how you do it the mechanical way. I'm going to finish these two up and use all of the electronic stuff. So in doing that, I don't need the powder in this anymore. Get that out of the way. I can do that later. Alright, I do want to show you something about these scales. You're going to want to buy these used, and you're going to have to find them on eBay. Is probably going to be the best place to find them if you decide to go with these. They're the RCBS 1010, and what you're going to want to look for on eBay is manufacturer scale right here. This company is the company that's going to manufacture the scales that you want to buy. If you see a pair that looks just like them, but they don't show the pictures of the bottom and it has this manufacturer on it, you do not want them, because they're going to be made in Mexico and they are not worth a flip. They're going to be about the same price as a brand new set, but trust me, these are what you want to get. now we're going to do the rest of this with the digital scales and powder thrower, and I'm going to show you how the case prep station works. So this replaces both of these. Also will do the large primers, which is what you have, and the small primers, which would be like a 223 or whatever, and it has a primer decrimp built into it. That's for pistol stuff. You really won't ever do that. Alright, so first thing you're going to do is turn the scales on, plug them in, turn them on. They'll go through their little cycle. Once they pop on, they're going to zero themselves out. Put your powder in there, basically punch what you want. I want 75 grains, so I'm going to hit 75. I'm going to hit dispense. It's going to dispense and weigh at the same time. We're going to do the primers exactly the same way we did with the other ones. It beeps once it's completely finished. Do not mess with anything until you hear it beep. Once it beeps, it's finished. You're still going to use the same funnel. Pull it off. Dump the powder. Set the tray back. When you set the tray back, you've got to wait till it zeroes itself out, or at least gets below 0.2. It will not activate unless it's below 0.2. Once it hits 0, it dispenses. It's going to do its thing there. Take this over here, basically seat the bullet exactly the same way. Now, if you had just punched the primer on this after you got through resizing it and you wanted to use the Loadmaster or the case prep station, this would do the primer. You could do the inside chamfer here. You could do the outside chamfer here. This is nice if you have a whole bunch of stuff you're doing. Really, for you, the mechanical stuff works just fine. Now, if you've got 1,000 rounds you're going to want to do, I can tell you right now, this thing will save you a lot of cramps in your hands because it's just that simple. It's very fast and very easy. For you starting out, the mechanical stuff is perfectly fine. But it's kind of the same. It beeped, it zeroed out at 75. Put it on, dump the powder, and seat the bullet. The advantages to this is going to be it's kind of foolproof. Okay, we were doing 75 grains. So let's say I did 5 rounds at 75 grains. Now I want to do 77 grains. All I got to do is go to 77, dispense. Now it's going to dispense 77 grains. It will continuously dispense whatever the last weight was that you put into it until you turn it off or tell it to do something else. So once it gets through with this, if I dump it out and just hit dispense again, it's still going to do another 77 grains. You can do 77.1 or 0.2, any tenth of a grain. All you got to do is tell it what you want. Reloading all kind of different stuff or changing different load weights, it's very nice. You don't have to do all the mechanical stuff. You know, disadvantages to it, you know, power don't work, you can't reload with it. If you drop it, you know, it's worked. It is a piece of electronics, kind of like anything else. It works great today. Tomorrow you turn it on, it don't work no more. You know, the mechanical scales, unless you physically damage them, they're always going to work. But they both have their advantages and disadvantages. But that's basic loading. Good way to get started. The rock chucker presses look more like this one. This one is very old. It was made in, I think, 77 or 78, but they still make the exact same press today. This is what they call their big bore. I like it because it's through here and it's easy to work with two hands if you need to use the extra space. When you're mounting this on the bench, if you're right-handed, I would mount it to the right side and give yourself maybe a foot, 18 inches just for sitting stuff. But you don't want this in the dead center of a bench because then you're going to be pushed to the far end. If you're left-handed, it would be just the opposite. You would want it all the way there on that end, and you would probably want to move the handle to the other side. That's what these two holes are for, right side, left side. Now this one, you can actually, no, on this one you cannot. This one is set, the handle is only going to be on the right. I can't remember if you're right-handed, it's a right-handed gun, so you shouldn't have any problems with either one of them. But, you know, a lot of people, first thing they do is set it right in the middle of the bench, and then they realize, oh, well, it took up all my space, it's kind of in the way. I can't think of really anything else. Of course, you'll probably have a million questions. Feel free to give me a holler at any point, and I'll answer anything else you got. Midway book, Sinclair book. Make sure you get both of those. And holler at me if you have any questions. I'll talk to you later.